U.S. and Israeli airstrikes, which started Saturday and continue apace, have done the following: decapitated the Iranian theocratic regime, unsettled global oil markets, made battlefields of several Gulf states, and, least consequentially of all, altered my work assignments. So, New York it is. And quite obviously, war it is. In interviews over the weekend, President Trump said regime change was part of this endeavor. He even implied there was some sense within the U.S. government of who might come next in Iran. Those references, interestingly, were scrubbed today at the Pentagon and the White House. But absence of reference does not erase the result. The regime has been changed, and something will come next. What that is and what becomes of it is now a U.S. and Israeli concern and project, details to be filled in later. For now, the U.S. and Israel own the skies over Iran. The Iranian military, with whatever remains of its command and control structure, has fired retaliatory strikes in many directions. 6 U.S. service personnel have been killed so far. So the question, how long will this continue?
We're already substantially ahead of our time projections, but whatever the time is, it's okay. Whatever it takes, we will always, and we have right from the beginning, we projected 4 to 5 weeks, but we have capability to go far longer than that. We'll do it. Whatever somebody said today, they said, oh, well, if the president wants to do it really quickly, after that he'll get bored. I don't get bored. There's nothing boring about this.
Nothing boring at all. Danger lurks across the region. Iran, though teetering due to internal instability, is not powerless. Its terrorist proxies are most definitely weakened, but not vanquished. We begin tonight with that as a backdrop with our Matt Gutman, who joins us from Tel Aviv. Matt, set the scene.
Major, I think you just hit the nail on the head. I don't think in recent history we have seen the Middle East in so much turmoil or so many nations involved in a single conflict, right? We have not only the pugilists of Israel and the U.S. against Iran, you have Iran lashing out against basically all of its neighbors: Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Lebanon is involved, Jordan is involved. Hezbollah's proxies, or Iran's proxies in Lebanon, Hezbollah, have launched drones towards Cyprus. Now, Cyprus is involved. The Brits are involved. We are talking about a conflict that is incredibly broad at this moment. I don't think we've seen anything like it in history. And the one thing that we can safely say at this point, that the Iran that existed a week ago is not going to be the Iran that exists a week from now or a month from now or a year from now. Clearly, there is going to be some sort of change. We don't know how major it's going to be. And the biggest question, of course, is the one that President Trump just talked about. What is the staying power? How long does this conflict continue? He's talked about it lasting for 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks. He's also talked about off-ramps and maybe talking and pausing those airstrikes. We don't simply know, but I think everybody right now here in the Middle East, particularly in Israel and particularly in Iran, are digging in for a longer conflict of many weeks, Major.
Matt, what does it look and feel like in Israel based on your observation? And what is the Netanyahu government telling the Israeli population about what to expect?
Very different tonight than it was last night, and there are a couple of reasons for that. Yesterday, there were about 34 sirens that sounded in the greater Tel Aviv area, people going up and down to bomb shelters. Today, very, very few. And what I'm being told from Israeli military sources is they are being very successful at eliminating Iran's mobile missile launchers and the ones that are buried wherever they are. They've taken out at least half of them over the past year or so, and they believe that 70 to 80% of them could be obliterated by the end of this week. So we're seeing fewer launchers. But there's something interesting that Iran is doing also. They are watching what President Trump is saying. And so I am told that the assessment is that they are metering their missile launches as well, to make sure that they have enough missiles and enough launchers to last for 4 or 5 weeks to continue the pressure on Israel. And you mentioned Netanyahu. He has been pushing for this very event for the entirety of his career, and now it is happening. But the question, as you mentioned it, is what happens in the day off after? Do they topple the regime? Do they install someone who is more favorable to the U.S.? If there is regime change, who is going to do it? And that could be a very, very difficult thing, especially without boots on the ground. So everything is very much still in turmoil here, Major.
Matt Gutman, excellent stuff. Thank you very, very much. We turn now to the White House and CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes. So let's pick up on what Matt just mentioned there, Nancy, this idea about boots on the ground. Lots of administration officials said, no, there's no reason to talk about that. But interestingly, today, in an interview with the New York Post, the president said he doesn't have yips about boots on the ground. Other presidents have. He doesn't. Didn't say he was going to deploy anyone, but he certainly opened up that door.
Right. He said it's a possibility. He said he doesn't foresee needing boots on the ground, but that he is certainly willing to keep that door open. And that is just one of the things that he has said today that indicate that this is going to be a longer term prospect, this conflict, than he had perhaps initially signaled. As recently as this past Saturday, Major, the president said, maybe I'll only strike Iran for 2 to 3 days, and then I'll pause if they're willing to talk and make new concessions. Today, in the East Room of the White House, he said that actually the plan all along has been to strike Iran for 4 to 5 weeks. And that he's open to going on longer than that if it's necessary. He said, and you played a bit of that sound, that he knows that some people think he'll just lose interest and kind of move on to the next thing. He said he doesn't get bored and he's all in.
Nancy, I want to play for you in our audience sound from the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who was up on the Hill today to brief significant members of Congress about this operation and its underlying rationale. And he said this. Let's listen.
This operation needed to happen because Iran in about a year or a year and a half would cross the line of immunity, meaning they would have so many short-range missiles, so many drones, that no one could do anything about it because they could hold the whole world hostage. Look at the damage they're doing now. And this is a weakened Iran. Imagine a year from now.
That sounds to my ear, Nancy, more explicit than we even heard from the president or the defense secretary earlier today.
It is. We heard a couple of new and more fulsome rationales from the Secretary of State this afternoon. He's there on Capitol Hill, knowing that he's going to get a grilling from lawmakers who have a lot of questions about not just the why of striking Iran, but the why now. And so he offered up a couple of explanations. Number one, and you heard it there, he said that they were building missiles and drones at such a rapid clip that if the U.S. didn't strike Iran now, it would be much more difficult to control them in a year. He also argued that the U.S. had analysis and intelligence that if another country, say Israel, were to strike Iran, that Iran would then immediately strike U.S. assets in the region. And so, therefore, the decision was made that the U.S. should just go ahead and strike Iran first, side by side with Israel. The question is, will lawmakers accept those explanations? Will they buy those explanations? We'll certainly get an earful from them as they emerge from those closed-door briefings on Capitol Hill.
And certainly, just a year ago, there was an analysis of the U.S. government that did not paint such a dire picture of Iranian ballistic missile capabilities. I'm sure members of Congress will follow up on that. Nancy Cordes, North Lawn of the White House, thank you.